Go. All right, we're live.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm Franz. This is Andy.
Hello.
Welcome to the Concrete5 monthly town hall. It is the beginning of the future. It is 2020, January 7th, it looks like. We had a pretty light town hall this month. I think everybody's kind of coming out of the holidays, a little dazed, a little confused. But yeah, excited for the coming year. It's a big year for us. We are rebuilding the community site and launching that this year. We've got version 9 that is coming out. A lot of stuff here that we're really excited about. So good to start those discussions now. Not a tremendous amount of new stuff to show today. Being the holidays, we're kind of be a light town hall. But if you've got questions that you want us to discuss, feel free to ask them at any time, and we'll get to some Q&A at the end. All right, I'm going to share my screen here. Nope. First, I'm going to share my screen. I think. Share. Leaderboard. Boom. So you should be looking at my screen. Things are working properly. First things first, want to do a little call out and thank you to everybody in the community that is helping one another use concrete5 and be successful with it. We have a karma system on concrete5.org today, and we'll have that in the future as well, where as you contribute to the core, as you promote the project, as you help people use it, you accumulate points. And every week we do a random drawing and give away a free marketplace add-on or theme. So this week it looks like Concrete Owl has won for helping people. Zachary HLB has won for promoting the project, and P. Vernaglia has won for doing some work. And thank you, all those people. You'll also see lots of folks down beneath that are accumulating points as well. This is just since Friday. And of course, some great names in there that we all know and love. John the Fish is there right at the top of work, and there's Talakman. Some names I don't know either. Dexterium, Dextertum sounds like something in a food product. Yeah, so pretty cool. Oh, hey, there I am.
Yeah, you're doing helping people.
That's great. Thank you to me too. But that is pretty cool.
I wonder what that's from.
I don't know. Must have done maybe some post I made. Somebody found helpful once, so that's nice. Whoa, little inception there. Back to us. Andy, do you want to talk about these? Oh,
Sure.
You got that. You talk about these pull requests.
Sure. Yeah. Like Ron said, we're kind of coming out of the fog here, so we've kind of got a large backlog of stuff that got submitted toward the end of November and into December as we were deep working on containers and boards. We're still doing a lot of work with that stuff, but we're also finding time to review pull requests and things that have come in since then. So you'll see some of, you may not have seen a lot of activity on some of these things that have been open for a few weeks, but now you'll start to see us coming up with questions and thank yous on that. So thank you. In the last month, we've accepted pull requests from A3020, BitLub, DEEK87, JNEIJT.
I think you have pretty close.
Yeah, something like that. Copy, Masuva, Mlokati, and Triple I. So thank you guys very much. And we've also got some documentation updates from myself, C5 Dragon, Copy, Mlokati, Mike, who's sitting across from me, and the Northman. So thank you all so much for that. It's super helpful, especially as we're kind of working on the next big version. I anticipate there will be another point release fairly soon. We're definitely going to do another one before we do a version 9. And so thank you for helping to make that come together.
Absolutely. Thank you very much to everybody. Say this every month, but it never comes any less true. It is very exciting to be part of something that is bigger than any of us. And we wouldn't be here if you guys didn't choose Concrete5 to go build websites for your clients for us. So we really appreciate that. And we're working hard to make that the right choice for you. So thank you for your contributions, and that means a lot to us. Moving right along into new and news. Let's see, version 9 QA and design refresh. Yes. So we've mentioned that a little bit. We've got new version 9 branch somewhere in GitHub.
Yes.
You can find.
Excuse me. Release/9.0.0.
Awesome. So that runs.
Yes.
You can install it. I've been playing with a copy. It's pretty cool. Lots of it works.
Yes. I wouldn't run something publicly with
We're
it.
not
but
running a production environment, but that is the goal.
Yeah.
So we are in the phase that we often will just do internally, where it's like, okay, we've got the bare bones behaving again, but now we need to go through, do a bunch of QA, and clean up all the corners. And we're going to do that on this outside. Normally we would work in Jira and Bitbucket internally. We are going to move our processes to GitHub for the version 9 QA and release. We just want to be more transparent with you guys about how we think, what we're working on, how the kind of the back and forth on these decisions gets made internally. We want to hear a little bit more about what we may be missing. We've built websites before, but certainly, everybody is doing things in their own way. And so for us to learn a little bit more about how you're using the tools that we build would be really helpful. So take a look in there. We've got GitHub has a new Kanban board feature, or new to us at least, that we'll be using to kind of manage the our process around that. So feel free to just go in there and snoop and just kind of see how the back and forth works. Feel free to make your own issues. If you're finding stuff that's broken, by all means, make an issue. I'm happy to organize that and tag it appropriately. Feel free to comment on the issues that are going in there. We are also going to be including a design refresh as part of that. So we did some file manager chatting, probably like a year ago at this point. On kind of like, well, we want to update this and kind of make the file manager have some of the same interface models as some of our other CRUD interfaces in the dashboard, but then also just have a new skin for kind of how that works, kind of change the way advanced search works, make it a little bit more intuitive. That is coming back up to the fore now. So with version 9, we're not redesigning the interface, and this gets into weird linguistics, but internally the way we're talking about it is, look, it's not a blank slate, hey, sky's the limit, anything's on the table. There is only so much time in the day, after all. But it is a design refresh, so we know some things we very much want to change. We want it to have a fresh look and feel. Perhaps more than just, it comes in a different color now. Like, I think we're willing to entertain some experience changes, but still the basic model of, well, there's side panels and an in-context editing experience and a dashboard that you go to. But we are coming up with a new kind of creative direction for how the interface should look. I know some, how do you call them? Some thorns in our side from the original version 7 designs are going to get rethought. Case in point, the dark background on the ad block interface is going to go. Like, that is the only dark background we have. There's really no compelling reason for it to be there. Makes things hard to read, even for those of us who used to have great vision. So that'll get rethought and other things like that. So if you've got ideas for that and you want your voice heard, we are ready, willing, and listening in GitHub. Part of that means we will be revising the GitHub labels that we use. Right now, there is a big old pile of labels that have kind of emerged organically over time. Every so often, we're like, oh, it'd be cool to add another label for this or another label for that. And it makes it pretty confusing, I think, especially if you're new to the project and like, what's the difference between like it and love it? Like, what's that for? So we actually had a really nice chat with Katz and Derek and our partners in Japan about this a few months ago, and we came up with some really good thinking at that point. And I know Corvin has been doing some kind of best practices research around what other projects use, and we will be revising those later today. So it would be a clearer way for you to understand kind of how we are prioritizing the issues that are coming in. What issues, if you are interested in throwing some development help at things, like where your help would be most quickly incorporated and appreciated, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we have that. So, but yeah, we're definitely, there are, probably close to a dozen labels, maybe more. And yeah, I imagine we're going to get them down to like 5 or 6 at the most.
Yeah, so that'll be changing.
Yeah, and then perhaps some labels for the different domains inside it, like multilingual or file manager. We're going to be talking about this immediately after.
Right after this. So that should be nice. But yeah, just to reiterate, you guys are the customer. You building websites with concrete5 is what we are here to support. So as we are looking at version 9, which to be clear will include the multi-site changes that have existed in the core for some time,
yes,
buried around, and will come out with the new marketplace that will support that licensing model the way we all want it to, and some new marketing around it. So all very exciting stuff. Big deal. This is a great opportunity to speak up and make sure your voice is heard. Last thing I have in terms of news in that vein, probably news to everybody in this room as well. We're working on a questionnaire around your DevOps and hosting needs, as I have been mentioning in these town halls for the last few months. Part of what we are kind of pivoting our focus on in the new community site will be a really seamless and powerful way for agencies and small shops to host many websites and safely manage the core between them, easily upgrade sites, easily spin up a clone of a site, apply an upgrade, see how that works, swap the domain that's pointing to it. The kind of thing that over the years has become more and more complicated. What we might have just done with Leech FTP and some duct tape in the past is now a complicated series of many tools. So a lot of our thinking is how can we provide an environment much like Pantheon or WP Engine does, where you really have tools to manage your clients and the hosting infrastructure in the way that makes sense for your business. We have learned an awful lot about doing that for the Department of Defense and some of our larger clients, and so we want to take the best practices from that, but also the real world best practices, or this is what's going to work for me down here in the trenches stuff. I know, managing several hundred websites that you need to keep moving quickly, and I only have 10 minutes to update this thing. Must I really jump through all these hoops? These are different requirements, and so we have to kind of find the right tool set to help everybody. So we will be sending out a questionnaire around what you're doing now, where we could provide value, what we might be missing. That stuff will probably come as part of an e-newsletter, which we haven't done in forever. So be on the lookout for that. And that's the news.
Nice.
That's the news as I have it. Sweet. Next up is time to show off a cool looking website in concrete5. So let me share my screen again. We'll do this little inception thing. Sure seems like there should be a better way to do this, but whatever. Sweet. So this is Bishop International Airport, Flint, Michigan. Concrete5 site. Pretty cool. Well, that's stacking up a little weird. But yeah, airport websites need to stay up. No one wants to see an airport website go down. That's sketchy. Flint, Michigan. I've been there. It's pretty cool. That's like the kind of like the GM run suburb of Michigan. Yeah, pretty good looking website. Sign up for deals. We got lots of content in this scrolly guy. Oops, let's get rid of that. Bunch of travel information in here, so you can kind of know what you can do when you're visiting Flint. Pretty consistent looking view. Oh, that's cute. Yeah, looks like a Concrete5 site. So very cool. Built by Adis, I'm going to say. Adis Enterprises, aenow.com. This is also a Concrete5 site, so that's good. Always nice when your own agency site's built with Concrete5. Welcome. Shoo. Nice. There you go. So pretty cool. Looks like they offer a full range of services. Yeah, it's iterative. So there you go. Flint Bishop Airport, Concrete5. So stable you can build an airport website with it. Stop sharing that. Aha, back. Let's see, what else have we got here? We were planning on doing a show and tell, but we had some AV issues that we're going to work through, and so I think maybe next month we'll do show and tell the button nav package from John the Fish. Think if I've got any other news to share. I know I do have one queue. Usually we just provide A's in the Q&A section, but I got a queue. We mentioned a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, that we were looking at using discourse.org as a forum for at least the next version of the online community. So years ago, we built a forum add-on for a legacy version of concrete5. Forums and the kind of the BBS model are always very near and dear to Andy and my heart, because that's where we started back in the day. But you know, it's hard to build. There's a lot of stuff in there, and you know, we're trying to do a good job of being a content management system first and foremost. So only so much time in the day, and we thought, look, why would we not just integrate with somebody who is really focused on just doing this, and then that would be an integration that other people could benefit from as well. I see Discourse has integrations with Slack, has integrations with Patreon. Like there's all sorts of
features that we would just never be able to.
Yeah, we can't support all that out of with the resources that we have today. And yeah, I mean, if you want a forum and they got one, let's use it. So that was offered a couple months ago. It's like, we think we're going to do that. I saw some tentative excitement, I believe, from some folks in the concrete5 Slack. It seemed like that was well received as far as I could tell, but you know, I don't really know. So I guess my cue is: has there been any? Does anybody like? We got beef with that? Like, let's see, is that decision good? Are we cool with that?
Head down for a little while. Yeah, it's a good question.
I'm cool with it.
Yeah, definitely. As with all things, you know, the fact that it's not necessarily written in the language we use day to day is, you know, that's a risk or a cause for, you know, question or concern. But you know, having looked at the code a bit, and both myself and Corbin have done so, it seems like a pretty reasonable trade-off in terms of working on something that's a little foreign, but getting so much out of the box in terms of integration with third-party services. And with our conversations model in the core, we kind of got the top 70, you know, 65 to 70% of the forum features, you know, dialed in, you know, but the long tail of features that we're just never going to get to. So,
well, my sense is we'd want to host it ourselves, but we would not really want to fork it. Like, I don't want to be in the business of, well, this was a good start, but we're going to do something different.
We want to theme it. We want to have an OAuth 2 integration to it. We want to be able to pull data from it. But nothing I've seen for our own profiles, because profiles are still something we're going to host and work and use through concrete5. You know, the concrete5 user model, since it works really well for that. So we'll be using concrete5.org as an authentication provider for this forum system. So you won't have to have multiple accounts or anything like that. But the full conversation experience, they do a nice job with the UI.
Yeah, it looks pretty. So so as long as we're not like getting in the business of owning our own copy of it and it now being Franz and Andy discourse, I think it's a smart. So
we've got a question from Bloody Iron on that. Let's show it. He says, I think discourse would be good. However, what are you guys doing to do with all, or what are you going to do with all the old forum posts? I found them rather useful sometimes when looking up an old issue.
Print them out.
We're gonna we would cold storage it, so we wouldn't remove it from the web, but we would remove your ability to comment or reply or kind of add it all. And we'd put some bar across the top that says these are old forums and you should be over here, but like sent you here, good luck.
You know, with our when we launched the legacy documentation site, that was kind of weird because we had to, it's still a new site. We had to pull the legacy docs into a new site. For this, I would imagine we would just kind of keep that particular portion of the old website active at some kind of archive.concrete5.org and maybe continue to make it searchable still, turn off some of the old interfaces that may not work very well or may just be a drag on it. But yeah, I don't, that content is useful and I don't want to migrate it either. And you know, a lot of it's out of date, but that doesn't mean you want to kill it or the permalinks.
No, I think we generally err towards content should be left where it is.
And links should be as permanent as
even though there's stuff in there that is technically not accurate, and there's certainly stuff in there me
some old inflammatory
spouting off like an idiot. So but that's fine. Like those conversations happen, so there's no reason to pretend they didn't. So we don't.
One of the really nice features of Discourse is you can actually post a question and self-answer it and choose that answer as the correct answer. So if people find that some of those old forum posts are, stale or maybe in a spot that is hard to find, if people find issues that or answers that are useful, they can just go to Discourse, add that question, and then add the answer as well, so that it can be kind of copied over if needed.
Yeah, I could see us adding some interface to do that. Like we would definitely want to turn off any ability to contribute content to the old stuff.
Or to even log into it.
Yeah, it's like that's frozen. But I could see us doing like a little thing of like, want to discuss this, click here, and it maybe fires up a new Discourse thread that references it or something, just to make it easier to not lose.
I like the idea of forcing people to kind of reconsider the question and re-ask it in a way that makes sense after they have the answer. But tooling's good too.
Sure. Do we have any other questions for Q&A today?
We have one more from Bloody Iron. He's asking on a different topic. With how feature-rich C5 already is, what are you folks doing to attract more developers to release add-ons and themes?
Well, that's a good question. Our focus right now is in version 9 and rebuilding this marketplace and the community around it. We're not doing much in the meantime to attract developers to release add-ons and themes. There are some fairly big changes in how we are thinking about the community site and how central it is to what we've been doing. And I think we probably want to focus on doing that and doing it right. I guess, I'll share from my perspective. When we first went open source in 2008, 2009, we had been building sites for agencies and larger clients with what was then just Concrete CMS. Since 2003 really was the first version ever. And my experience was running a full service interactive media firm in Portland and kind of the account management high level of touch that goes into managing clients like that, right? So being very present as to whatever our clients' needs were and going to their kids' birthday parties and all that. At one point early on, we first went open source, and we had some of you may remember the Black Monolith website, and we would be looking at Google Analytics and watching our user count go from 8 people a day to 12 to 50, and it was very exciting. And I had this kind of this epiphany of, I should be in the forums and I should be treating everybody who comes and posts here as if they were a client, right? Like if you're going to spend 50 grand for me to make a flash demo of your new product, like I'm gonna give you very long answers if you have questions. And there was a moment where kind of a switch flipped in my mind. I said, like that's the level of attention that I should be personally applying to every thread in this marketplace, because we didn't have a marketplace in the community. Because the sheer fact that we've been able to get through the noise of any content management system at all, and anyone's come here is a miracle, and we should we should be treating this person like our newfound brother or sister. That served us very well, and for the first few years of being open source, the kind of the consensus on third-party review sites and other places that you would find is the core team at concrete5 is very available and will debug your code for you, and we were very, very hands-on. And at some point, that became difficult to scale, right? As we got bigger and, our Google Analytics are, there's 5,000 people coming every day. It is very difficult for me to be replying to every post. And I think at some point, it just became not helpful as as we started to maybe be more reactive than strategic in our communication around those ideas, it was not particularly helpful. We were getting into heated debates where people just wanted to be right, and we realized, look, fundamentally you need to work. Like, just arguing about how things should be is not helpful. So I stepped back and said, look, I need to worry about other projects that we're doing. We were still very much building websites for customers as well. So at some level, we kind of competed with the folks who were using our software. And I don't think there was quite as much of a switch flipping in my mind, but more of just kind of an entropy of, look, I can't, every new person who comes to the site can't be my own personal client. I got to go deal with these big clients, and kind of slip back into what we were doing in the early aughts, which, as some of you know, is very much to how we are here, where we have this this backing from the U.S. Army and this very large project that we've been very successful with, and obviously, yeah, they call, we answer. Moving forward with Concrete, we see ourselves moving back to that model of, you are our customer, we are providing a framework, and you are building websites for your clients. And we work with you to make sure that you have the tools to do what you need. That's a subtle but pretty important shift from how things have run for the last few years. It means that we need to generate more of our revenue from hosting. We generate some revenue from the marketplace. Getting more add-ons and themes is great. Fundamentally, those are one-off purchases, and hosting is the majority of the money that is going to get spent over the website's life. Once you've designed and built it, is going to go for hosting the thing. You got to pay someone to host it. It's a shame you're not paying us. So we want to do a better job of providing a hosting platform that is really compelling, not just for big clients that want to have us jump through compliance hoops and don't mind spending a lot of money for it, but really for a web shop that is trying to manage lots of Concrete5 sites. And we want that to become the focus of what we're doing here at Portland Labs, for us to be more of a connection enabler between folks who need websites and folks who build websites. We often talk about a content management system as being the tool set that lets people, content creators and technicians, work together. We see our role, and maybe the community site as well, as it should do a better job at that. Right now, it's kind of been an afterthought. So that's very much what 2020 is about for us. Everybody here has been hearing me talk about that a lot over the last couple of months. The design thinking that is going into the new community, the marketplace, some of the choices that we're making. Hey, we're not going to build forums because we could. We're going to use forums that exist out of the box that other people have stamped, because we need to focus on documentation. We need to focus on certification. We need to focus on best practices around how to deal with a new Concrete5 site, customer. We routinely hear from folks that have a legacy Concrete5 site or an older Concrete5 site, and they're looking for a local vendor to work with. And depending on where they are, sometimes we struggle to find someone to suggest. So, as you grow, you learn the power of saying no. And for us, we're saying no to more of that client-facing work ourselves, and really focusing on shifting to serve the agency as our primary customer. So I think the short answer is lots of little stuff. Probably nothing that you're going to see dramatic results from until we relaunch the community site and launch version 9. But as that happens, I would expect to see a pretty seismic shift in how things feel as a shop that has picked concrete.
Well, and just to add to that, the question about what are you doing to attract marketplace developers, to support marketplace developers, it's no accident that we achieved our biggest marketplace growth in terms of developers offering add-ons, in terms of new add-ons being available, in terms of add-on revenue during that period that you're describing, where we were responsive to the community, unlike the ways we, unlike how we may have taken a step back since then. We certainly did ourselves no favors by releasing a backward incompatible version with 5.7, but the changing nature of the web kind of dictated that, and so that didn't help. But when we were at our most responsive in the forums, in the community, with the communication between us and the partners and the C5 developers on concrete5.org, that was when we saw the biggest gain in marketplace submissions. And so I don't think you need some kind of concerted effort to bring people into be marketplace developers. I'm sure that wouldn't hurt, but the best thing that you can do is to just sort of walk the walk first. And then I think that will, and that coupled with the updated site, which always brings traffic, that coupled with an updated marketplace, which we haven't really updated the tools underlying that in 5+ years. That's going to make a big difference. And that will do as much, if not more, than some kind of isolated marketing effort. So that's where the focus lies.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I'm sure there will be marketing things that we do. We will get the PHP elephant out of that crate over there and start going to some conferences again as well. But what Andy's saying is true is for the past few years, when your focus is, look, I need to build this code for a project that I've sold and it's very complex and I got to get out the door on our own schedule for our own clients, and hey, it's open source, so if you'd like to enjoy it, by all means do. Hope you can figure it out. That certainly, I think we would both admit has been a mindset that we've been, I'm not willing, but have for one reason or another slipped into. And I think the way that we do what you're asking is to pivot on that and change that to you're building the sites, we're providing the tools to do that. So you tell us what we can do to help more, and the primary focus should be on documenting the many features that are in Concrete5 that just could use more explanation, systemizing that stuff so it's the customer has a more consistent experience. If I get, one of the things that we always wanted from day one was kind of standards. You've heard me talk about that. If some other contractor comes in my home, they know studs are 16 inches on center. And I think because we've looked at, because we haven't looked at kind of sharing best practices as our primary job, everybody has their own, right? So sometimes, we'll see sites where there's lots and lots of block areas, and sometimes it's just one block area with lots of layouts, and there's really no discussion around, what should you be doing? What's the advantages of either? So we want to shift a lot of our energy into kind of enabling those conversations, listening as much as dictating, around saying that we know how to do everything. But that's the piece that's missing that will get us back to that growth that you're looking for. Nice. I feel like that's really long.
Well, I think you guys covered all the bases. There was a bit of a follow-up question. How does that relate to competing with more prevalent CMSs like WordPress? I'd imagine it's pretty much the same answer as those are our focuses, and I don't think we're really focusing on things like what's WordPress's market share doing and things like that. But can you speak to that a little?
Yeah, I mean, we look at other tools sometimes. We certainly, I think it's important to be aware of where the market is going as a whole.
I agree with that.
And so, we're certainly curious. We don't really
like copy features.
Yeah, we don't really spend a lot of time looking at where they're going tactically and at any given moment. Yeah, and I think you would probably find that any successful organization kind of says that, what your competition is doing is interesting, but it's not really where you should start. I think any of the tools out there do some things really well. They tend to be in a matrix between kind of technical and business wise. I think WordPress does this, what we've just been talking about, exceptionally well, right? Like I think everyone would agree. You can find people who will help you with WordPress.
Yeah, their ecosystem.
You can go to a WordCamp and you can make a connection. You can have a conversation in a hallway at a WordCamp that will change the way you think about your business. And you can't do that with us. So that is something that they do well that we would like to do better. You know, hey, they're gonna, you know, they've got Gutenberg. What does that mean for in-context editing? Yeah, good luck. I mean, we've got Express. What does that mean for expression engine? Like, you know, we all are kind of dealing with the same stuff because it's all the same basic problem. So
trying to solve the same problem.
You know, it's interesting when we go to solve something. It's certainly, you know, interesting to see how people think about it. And then you also get into the kind of the 15-year cycle in all IT, where it's like, oh, it's microservices, and then you're going to see kind of a shift back towards, well, big servers that do everything together. And so you want to be a little bit careful chasing what's hip.
Nice. There haven't been any more questions. There's been a little bit of a few statements on documentation. Do you guys want to speak a little bit to how documentation is going to improve with the new concrete5 site? I know Andy's been working on a set of changes that we want to make.
Yeah, we kind of started these in development. It's a mix of sort of development changes to the documentation site and content changes. As you might imagine, the lion's share of this is content. There's no way you're not going to write a feature that gets you out of having to just, you know, roll up your sleeves and write the documentation. But there is a lot of it that, but there some of those feature improvements are, which are, I don't think it rolled out yet, but we're adding a videos section to the documentation site. It's pretty much a no-brainer. We have a lot of nice videos on YouTube. You can certainly find them on the YouTube channel, but it would make a lot of sense for them to be available in some capacity on the documentation site. So that is going to be something that we're rolling out. And then beyond that, we're going to be thinking of documentation in a bit of a different way. So right now we have editor documentation and developer documentation. And once you go into those tabs, and how-tos, which are tutorials, which are going to be mostly the same. And when you go into editor or developer documentation, you're kind of you get dumped into a big table of contents. So from a content organizational standpoint, we're going to be tweaking that a little bit so that when you go into any of these top level silos, you kind of get a bit more introductory content than just simply being dumped into a big list of sort of unstructured content. We're going to be thinking about content in a little bit of a different way. The developer section will sort of turn into like a developer, like a concrete5 developer reference. So you shouldn't have to wade through the developer section in order to that should be something that augments your understanding of how concrete5 works at a low level. So I'm trying to figure out how to make caching work. Well, one, that means I actually understand what caching even is. I know that I need it for some reason. I just don't know quite how to do it. Does concrete5 offer it? Let's see. So that's sort of a reference problem. I can delve deeply into this caching section, which is, you know, deep in this developer reference. But the developer section, this reference section, has never been very good at explaining to people how to think about problems or how to solve them or what even problems they should be thinking about. So the biggest change to the documentation site, which I know we talked about a long time ago, and I know it's taking longer than anticipated, is building websites with concrete5 ebook. This started out of the excellent work that Corbin and Mike were doing weekly or bi-weekly with the video show. We kind of took a step back from that and decided, you know, if we're doing these videos, we really ought to have a written component with these too, because they'll help make the videos stronger, and also there will be this artifact that we can have that will be very nice for people who don't want to invest in the videos. So I started working on a building websites with concrete5 book late last year. Mike is currently editing the first 2/3 of it. We're finding time, literally currently, if you turn this camera around, you would see it. And we're going, and the sort of last third of that first version is coming. It's in GitHub. It's going to be something that you can get from the website, but it'll also be posted on the website as well. That will fill the gap between the user guide, which is what the editor's documentation is turning into, and the developer's guide. So the last component of this, the editor's section, it's less about editing because there's a usage component of concrete5, which sort of comprises what we think of editing as well as the back end stuff. So, and by back end, I mean the dashboard. Yeah. So not necessarily development, but how do you use a concrete5 site? That means editing content. That means adding users. That also means tuning a site to make it, move it from development to production. How do I clear a cache on a concrete5 site? Why would I even want to do that? What does that do? And so those three silos, user documentation, end user documentation, building a website with concrete5, mid-level documentation, and then the deep developers reference is how we see our documentation site maturing in 2020. And I'm still super excited about it, just finding time to get that stuff crossed off, but it is definitely coming.
Yeah. Yeah, the big focus is on editing and finalizing the work that you've done, the many pages.
Yeah,
how to approach problems in concrete5. When you think about any O'Reilly book, they're almost always broken in that way. Yeah. There's that first half, which is this is how you think about the problem, and we're going to take you down this nice narrative, and then you get into the here's all your functions, and this is how and now you know what you're doing. Good luck. And we kind of started with that, and we didn't do the first part.
We did the lowest level.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I think that's the last question. We've seen a lot of excitement about some of the things we've talked about, like hosting, like focus on agencies, about consolidating the community. I think the things we've talked about are hitting real well. So I'm excited for it. Great.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. So next month, hopefully we'll have a little bit more to do in this show and tell. So let's make sure that we've got, if you are building good looking websites, please let us know. There is a contribute to the showcase section. You go down the footer on concrete5.org, there's a showcase. There's a form you can fill out on that page. We would love to show your website and your agency's website next month. Submit those. What was that?
February 4th.
February 4th is when we'll be chatting again. If you've got an add-on or a project or some code or something interesting that you would like to demo at this point, I believe next month we are going to do John the Fish's button nav package because due to audio visual issues we couldn't do it this month, but we'd love to have a larger stack of that stuff that we can do. It's always nice to see what folks are doing out in the wild. That's one of my favorite parts of this. So if you're sitting there thinking, well, that's nice, I don't know why he's wasting this time, he's not talking to me. I'm talking to you. Submit your stuff. You're important. I'd like to have it from you, that person who is wondering if you're good enough. You are good enough. Why?
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
Yeah, man. Make it a reality. We're here to enable that. Yeah, I think that's all I got.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Awesome. Cool. Well, there you go. Thank you very much. Happy 2020, and see you online.